Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of you guys are worried about ESG and DEI and all this other nonsense injecting itself into Japanese entertainment, or Korean if you want to talk about South Korean's game, Stellar Blade, anything like that. Basically anything that's not Western. I know a lot of you guys are worried about that stuff because you hear about what Capcom's doing sometimes. You hear about, especially what Sega, aka Sega, is doing with ESG and getting investments from BlackRock and whatnot. Well, sometimes you do get some good news, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes not all news is negative around this, and we have an article here from Bounding Into Comics with a headline that reads, Visions of Mana producer refuses to change the series' identity for Western audiences and says that it is best to deliver the game based on the developer's creative vision.
Yes! Yes!
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw this article and I saw this headline, honestly, I had to give it a little bit of a cheer. As sad as that is in today's modern world, but you have to actually either, number one, cheer this stuff on, or number two, even have to acknowledge that something like this has to be said. Regardless of the matter, I still have to do it because, honestly, there is so much going on in the gaming scene right now. You guys are obviously aware with Gamergate 2.0 and Sweet Baby Inc. and Baby Go, all this other nonsense. You guys know of everything that's happening, and when you have developers come out like the ones who are making Stellar Blade completely destroy the Western audience and say, you know what? We're not making the game for you. We're making the game for us, and it just happens to be releasing in your country because we want your money, obviously. But still, they're not making the game with the intention of our gaze. They're making the video game with the intention of their home player base, which in Stellar Blade's, field is going to be Korean. In this game, it's going to be Japanese. So let's get into this article, guys. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. And again, guys, I'm happy that they are actually saying this. I hope they stick to their guns because we do not need Western ideology injecting itself into Japanese video games. That is the last thing that we need, and they desperately want to do it. Let me be honest with you. They desperately want to do it. I see it happening in anime and manga. I see it happening with certain companies like Sega, like I mentioned before. They want to do it because the East is the last bastion of gaming or entertainment in general that they haven't been able to corrupt. It is the last bastion, and they know that if they can control that narrative, they will have so many people and so many forms of entertainment where they can inject their bullshit into and get off on just basically ruining everything. So it says, in adding his voice to the ever-growing chorus of Japanese creators who are refusing to compromise their artistic endeavors for Western sensibilities, Square Enix's Mana series producer Masaru Oyamada had declared that rather than bringing in new fans by changing the action RPG's line core identity, he hopes to do so by celebrating those elements which have made it popular in Japan for a long time. Now, this is what I say all the time. Why is it that the Western ideology, right? The Western ideology of developers is, hey, we want to get new customers. We want to get new fans. So what do we do to do that? Let's alienate all the fans that we have currently and make up something completely different to what they love in the hopes that we can garner some new fans. I don't understand that fucking mindset. Like, if you have a player base and you have a fan base of people that love your product, why in the fuck would you alienate them to try to get new customers? Why don't you keep entertaining the customers that you have and then push your product out to people who might not have seen it before? And if they vibe with it, great. And if they don't, move on with your life. But at least you didn't give up the customers that you had prior. The issue that we have with Western developers is they don't think like that. They want to alienate their fan base. And it's not just the gaming studios either. It's Hollywood, it's entertainment, TV shows, movies. They want to alienate the people that love their product prior in the hopes that they're going to get a couple of trannies to go buy their product afterwards. That just doesn't make any sense. You are giving up the majority for the minority. That is stupid. You should just go fish in the minority while you maintain and keep the majority of the people that you have. Oyamada, who has served in his position ever since the 2009 port of Secrets of Mana, made it clear his disinterest in chasing a wider audience during a March 2024 interview with video game news website Automaton. Amidst a larger discussion of the creative direction he and his team would be taking with the upcoming Visions of Mana, Oyamada was at one point pressed by the outlet as to whether or not he had seen a difference in the reactions to the announcement of the series' next entry between Japanese and overseas players. In Japan, there are many who have been playing the series for a long time and are familiar with the IP's history, so the reaction had been half expectant and half anxious, the producer told the outlet. On the contrary, overseas players showed a lot of curiosity about the game and what it entails, including if it will be available on the platforms that they own. The difference between the reactions is somewhat interesting. From there, Oyamada was asked if he had any plans as to how you'd like the Mana series to reach out to Western gamers in the future, to which he asserted, "I get the feeling that many people who picked up Secret of Mana in 1993 at the time it came out were young like I was, because I was regularly receiving feedback from people who played the latest entries through the lens of their childhood experiences with the series. I hope that as they grow older and become parents, they will recommend the Mana series to their children and tell them how fun that it is. The unique atmosphere and design might make people feel that it is a bit childish," he added. "However, these are the strengths of the Mana series. Rather than changing these features that make the Mana series, I hope that new players will come to like these games that have been popular in Japan for a long time for what they are." And that is simply what it needs to be. If you have an IP that was loved by so many people when they were younger, and they grow up and they expect it to be something that it was prior to when they loved it, then yes, you should upkeep that. You should not just change the entire mindset or change the entire video game because those people got older. This is where Disney's messing up. This is where Disney is talking about making things for the modern audience when the modern audience doesn't exist. The audience is still the audience from prior. They might be a little bit older, but guess what? They're the ones with the money, and they're the ones that are going to recommend certain TV shows and movies and games to their kids. So you should be placating to them. You should be making them feel as if they're the important customer, and yet they're not doing that. They're too busy going for the LGBTQ 12 and under crowd because they're the ones who are easy to basically mold in their brain, and they're thinking that that's going to somehow make it into the modern audience 10 years from now, and we all know this fad's going to disappear at some point, and you're going to be left with nothing. This is why Disney is completely being destroyed every single day, and honestly, I'm here for it. So I'm glad that he's against this nonsense, and we need to stop westernizing stuff. It's stupid. Like, not everything has to be for the West, which is why in the West, Eastern content is top tier. In the West here, in the United States, Eastern content is top tier in terms of at least manga. Speaking strictly manga and anime, it is top tier. Now, obviously, in terms of the movies, Marvel and DC and Disney, they all have their stuff still. But ultimately, like in terms of other entertainment, video games, anime, manga, Eastern content is still top tier and is still reigning supreme. He then asked by the automated if his declaration meant that he was taking care to not let your series identity become westernized. Oyamada ultimately affirmed, "I think the visuals of the Mana games are a distinctive characteristic. Therefore, it is best to deliver the game based on the developer's creative vision. For example, there are many different types of characters in the Mana series." He concluded, "I think the fun of the game is encountering this mysterious world and its inhabitants, and because of that, we don't have a strong focus on a particular audience. However, we do work on the game while bearing in mind that the Mana series is loved by fans from all over the world." And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all you have to do. If you know that your game is loved by many fans, why would you alienate them? Why would you say, you know what, we're going to change the way the game is because Western audiences demand it? Fuck that shit, man. Make the game the way you want to make it, and people will resonate with it, and don't alienate the fans that resonated with your previous title. That is how you get sequels that don't do very well. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.